if you can imagine Manjushri in the space in front of you, body made of golden orange light. Obeisance to my Guru and Protector Manjushri, who holds to his heart a scriptural text symbolic of his seeing all things as they are, whose intelligence shines forth like the sun, unclouded by the two obscurations, who teaches in 60 ways with the loving compassion of a parent for his only child, all wanderers caught in the prison of samsara, confused in the darkness of their ignorance, overwhelmed by their suffering. You, whose dragon thunder-like proclamation of Dharma arouses us from the stupor of our delusions and frees us from the iron chains of our karma, who wields the sword of wisdom, hewing down suffering wherever its sprouts appear, clearing away the darkness of ignorance. You, whose princely body is adorned with the 112 marks of a Buddha, who has completed the stages, achieving the highest perfection of a bodhisattva, who has been pure from the beginning, I bow down to you, O Manjushri. Amar Pasanti, Amar Santi, Amar Santi, Amar Santi, Amar Santi, Amar Santi. Amarapatana. With the brilliance of your wisdom, O compassionate one, illuminate the darkness enclosing my mind, awaken my intelligence and wisdom, so that I may gain insight into the Buddha's words and the texts that explain them. So take a few minutes to calm your mind and cultivate your motivation. Okay, so all of you have the privilege and opportunity of going on vacation with Manjushri. And this prayer that we just did, I did a talk about it in Singapore, which is videoed, and so maybe you can set it up in the media room and people can watch it, just kind of talking about who Manjushri is and explaining this short prayer. So I I'm just going to talk a little bit briefly and then open it to questions and answers, But Manjushri is the manifestation of all of the Buddha's wisdom. Okay, so there are many Buddhas, and there are many people who became Buddha in the aspect of Manjushri. So all these Buddhas have different mental continuums. However, they have the same realizations. So when you focus on that, it's very difficult to see them all as separate, because they have the same realizations. However, since you have many different people who meditated and became Buddha, and each one of them has their own continuum, each Buddha has their own continuum. But many people can get enlightened in the aspect of Manjushri, or many people can get enlightened in the aspect of Chenrezig, because they're meditation deities. And so depending on the meditation deity that you focus on, then you will create that kind of resource body, or an enjoyment body, the body that you appear to in the Pure Lands, according to the meditation deity that you meditate on. Okay? So Manjushri is, the practice is really wonderful. He has a very special connection with Tibet. A lot of the different Tibetan traditions, say that Manjushri appeared to their different sages and pandits and so on. Especially in the Galu tradition, Manjushri is quite strong. And, before they study or debate, then they always do this prayer right here, and then many, many, many times. Okay? And when you do the retreat, there's a certain kind of lightness that comes, I don't know why, but Manjushri, you can really feel his body made of light, because it's the Buddha of wisdom. And wisdom here, we're not only talking about the wisdom of conventional objects that knows cause and effect, but especially the wisdom of the ultimate truth that knows that everything is empty of inherent existence. And so somehow, because he's connected with that wisdom then, and his body's this kind of golden orange color, then I don't know why, for me anyway, it becomes much easier, body of light, kind of not anything solid, just kind of an appearance there. And so it really makes your mind feel quite light in that way. And the Manjushri practice, because it's increasing your wisdom, is also going to make your mind much clearer, because what gets in the way of us understanding the Dharma and eliminating our ignorance is unclarity of mind, ignorance. So it's going to help make our mind much, much clearer. And when you look at in your sadhana, the 6 kinds of wisdom that you're generating, and the different visualizations that you do. Okay, so this practice in the this doesn't have page numbers, but page 3. So you see, even the page numbers, the merely numbered page numbers, disappear in the Manjushri sadhana. Okay, so the extensive wisdom, which has no resistance to understanding the meaning of the Buddha's extensive scriptures. Okay, so it can memorize and understand things quickly. It also knows the entire meaning of sutra and tantra, and is able to see the conventional and ultimate natures of all phenomena without restriction. Okay, that's pretty extensive wisdom, yeah? So you develop that. And then the clear wisdom, okay, that understands all the detailed and settled points of emptiness and dependent arising. Okay, and the quick wisdom that quickly cuts off ignorance, wrong conceptions, and doubt. Okay, and then the profound wisdom that understands the meaning of the scriptures in a profound, limitless way, so that when you study any of the sutras or commentaries, you really get what they're talking about, not just intellectually, but in your heart. The wisdom of explaining or teaching the Dharma, which can explain the definite, correct understanding of all the words and meanings of the scripture so that you can really benefit sentient beings. The wisdom of debate, which courageously refutes the damaging words that express wrong ideas and misconceptions. So also another important way that we can benefit others by dispelling misconceptions. And the wisdom of composition, which uses perfect grammar and words and has the meaning of clear wisdom that gives joy to the minds of all sentient beings. Okay, so this practice emphasizes developing those kinds of wisdom. So you can see that, it has to do with really understanding the Dharma on a very deep level. Okay, so understanding the Dharma, and although it emphasizes here, the words and meaning in the text, it doesn't mean understanding them on an intellectual level. It means that you understand the words and meanings of the texts in your heart. Okay, so whether you're excuse me, whether you're studying precious human life or studying the ultimate nature, your mind is able to, really get what the teaching is, and also know how to apply it to your own life. Yeah, so that the Dharma doesn't remain simply some kind of intellectual blah blah, but something that really affects your life and your mind because you've put it into practice. Okay? So that's what you're going to be doing on this retreat. It's really a very, very nice practice. I like the Manjushri practice quite a bit. And especially, like I said, because it's very much a part of Lama Tsongkhapa's tradition. Lama Tsongkhapa had a direct 911 line to Manjushri and, could talk to him. I mean, not immediately. At the beginning of his practice, he had, even with his first writings, it said that he didn't have the complete view at that time. But after he went to Oka, which is one hermitage, he, with 8 of his disciples, and he did very intense purification and accumulation of merit there. Then he began to have this direct line to Manjushri, and he could ask Manjushri any question he wanted to and get the correct answer. Okay, so I don't think that means, literally, like, okay, I'm Skyping you, Manjushri, pick up the line. But clearly in terms of his own practice, his wisdom was at such a place where he could, have some kind of communication with this, with Manjushri in the form of a bodhisattva who was able to teach him. The place where Jay Rinpoche did this retreat, that helped him so much. Actually, I think it was Manjushri who even told him to do the retreat, because he was really stuck in his practice. So Manjushri said, you have to go, and he recommended 3 things to help get the correct view: purify, accumulate merit, and make requests to your spiritual mentor. And so he went to Urkha. I was able, in 1987, when I was in Tibet, to go to that place. And it's quite amazing. There, Lama Tsongkhapa did, usually when we do prostrations, we do 100,000 prostrations with, to the 35 Buddhas kind of all together. He did 100,000 for each of the 35. And when he first had a vision of the 35 Buddhas, because in the original sutra it didn't have to the one thus gone, or Tathagata, it just had the name of the Buddha. So when he initially had a vision of the 35 Buddhas, he couldn't see their heads very clearly. So that's when he went back and he did it again and said to the one thus gone, so-and-so Buddha. Okay, and after that he had the vision clear of all the 35 Buddhas with their faces very clear. Okay, so because he did 35 million prostrations plus the extra 10%, the rock, because they didn't have nice, comfortable, mats and carpeting and prostration boards there. He just did it on a rock. There's the imprint of his body on the rock. Okay. I don't usually believe in things like this, but, this one I saw. Yeah. And then he also did, I forget how many mandala offerings to accumulate merit. And when you do the mandala offering on the plate, you rub your hand this way and you rub your hand this way. So clearly this became all raw. Yeah. But the rock that he was using, he didn't have a nice smooth aluminum thing or silver thing or whatever. He just, again, was using a rock. In the base of the rock where he built his mandala, and I saw this, you could see designs of flowers. You can see designs of different, offering objects. Again, it was really, as these things kind of emerge, they have this thing in Tibet that things, what do they call it? Self-arisen, that these things arise from the rock. And I'm not one of these lala people, I mean, that's not me. I'll tell you another story with Lama Tsongkhapa, because you can really see how he embodies Manjushri's wisdom so clearly. I went to Reting, the place where he wrote the Lamrim Chenmo, which for me was just incredibly holy place, because this is the book that saved my life, so to speak. So, we went there and stayed at the monastery, and they showed us the place where he wrote the text. And then we walked up, they showed us, we walked way, way up the mountain and across the mountain to a place where Jay Rinpoche used to go to meditate up the mountain. And it said that he would meditate on emptiness and all these letters Ah, because Ah is the symbol of emptiness, the letter Ah, that they would all fall from the sky while he was meditating. And I'm going, yeah. But I went there, and in the rocks, it's true, there are the patterns of the letter Ah, sometimes the patterns of the letter Omahong. And this is like the, what do you call it, the veins of the rock drawing this, so it's not somebody who carved it afterwards. Yeah, so my point here is that the Manjushri practice, can really increase your wisdom to the point where, you can understand conventional and ultimate truth, and where, that uplifts your mind in a way to a different way of perception than us common beings have, because our minds are so clouded by our afflictions and our karma and everything else, And we can see how our own minds are clouded, can't we? You sit down to meditate and, can you do one session without any distraction? No, our minds are totally filled with rubbish, and all your rubbish will come up, during retreat. You're trying to concentrate on the meaning of emptiness, and all you can think about is lunch. You think about your past boyfriends and girlfriends. You think about places you traveled and places you want to travel. You think about people who offended you and people who you want to offend. I mean, it becomes very clear when it says that our minds are obscured what that means, okay? And then some sessions you will have a very, very clear mind, and you'll kind of get it. And, and even understanding what your mind is doing, how your mind works, understanding the habit patterns in your mind, that's really quite significant, because once you understand some of these habit patterns, then you can start to cut them. Yesterday I was answering a letter from one of the inmates that I write to, He's in for murder. He's somebody who committed one of the five heinous crimes. He killed his mother and his stepfather. So, pretty heavy karma. Anyway, he was telling me that he noticed, because he has different jobs in the prison, that he noticed that every job he takes, not only in prison, but even before he went to prison, every job he ever had, he felt overworked, unappreciated, ignored. Yeah, and it was like, oh my goodness, every single job I've ever worked, I felt overworked, underappreciated, ignored. This doesn't have to do with the jobs, does it? If it's happening every job I've ever had, it's not coming from the jobs, it's coming from me. And this was a big aha for him. And so you may have those kind of ahas in your meditation. Just even something like this, seeing some kind of habitual way of interpreting things, of responding to things, some emotional habit you have, or, verbal habit or physical habit. And this becomes clear to you, and that is the meaning of receiving Manjushri's blessing. Yeah? As you begin to see this, once you notice even one of these patterns, it's like, oh, now I get it. Now I see what I need to work on. Yeah, because it isn't from outside, it's from inside. Yeah, and so then you begin to ask yourself, well, what are the remedies for the afflictions? How do I put those remedies to work in this particular situation to transform my mind, so that when I do any job, I can see, I'm not overworked, I'm not underappreciated, I'm not ignored. Yeah, that what I do is valuable, that I'm not just replaying the same old pity party video of how everybody else has it better than me. Okay, so so Manjushri helps you, to understand these kinds of things, and that's the meaning of receiving the blessing of the deity. It's not that receiving the blessing is some blessing. Manjushri comes along and with his sword taps you on the head, and you go, ah, that's sharp, Oh, but it's made of light. It didn't hurt that much. That's not the meaning of receiving the blessing, okay? Receiving blessing, the literal translation is to transform into magnificence. Yeah. So the deity can't make your mind transform into a magnificence, because if any of the Buddhas could have done that, they would have so far. Okay, so for our mind to be transformed into magnificence, to receive the blessing, or inspiration, the inspiration of the deity, requires that we do something, that there is a cooperative effort, and we are participating and doing something. So that is our meditation, when you do the sadhana and you really focus on the different aspects of the sadhana, and try and understand it and try and generate those different feelings, then we're doing our part to clear away our hindrances. And then Manjushri does his part. Okay? So, for example, first of all, the two verses at the very top of the page, you don't have to recite that every session. It's kind of inspiring, so you might want to, but it's not necessary. But just even starting with refuge and bodhicitta, yeah, and the four immeasurables, boy, there's a whole lot to meditate on there. Yeah, instead of, I take refuge until I'm enlightened, but Dharma Sangha. You know, it's like, well, you know, can you generate that feeling in your heart of taking refuge? And what does that mean? And who is the Buddha? What is the Dharma? Who is the Sangha? You know? And so in your break time, studying something about the qualities of the three jewels, you can find this in the Refuge chapter of any of the Lamrim books, you know, and you study about that. And then when you take refuge, you understand what you're taking refuge in. And when you meditate on Manjushri, you understand Manjushri's qualities, because he has the qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Okay, and then, so when you study and you know something about what these words mean, then the practice really comes alive for you, you know. If you're not studying and you're just kind of doing it on faith, you know, yeah, I take refuge, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. I said that 3 times this session. I said it 3 times last session. You know, it's like, I know this already. You know, but we don't know it in our hearts. You know, and what's the implication of taking refuge in the Buddha? It means the Buddha is our role model, which implies that we also want to become a Buddha. So for Mahayana practitioners, taking refuge in the Buddha leads you into generating bodhicitta. Yeah, because if you want to become a Buddha, if you take refuge in the Buddha, it means you want to become one. Yeah, which means you need to generate bodhicitta. That aspiration, you need to generate renunciation. Yeah. And then when you do the 4 immeasurables, you know, may all sentient beings have happiness and its causes, except those guys who shut up the thing in Paris, you know, may they go to hell as quick as possible. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. Yes, especially the people I like, but not the people who insult me and are prejudiced against me and blame me for things I don't do. May they go to hell along with those terrorists. You know? I mean, this is the way our mind thinks, doesn't it? Yeah? Oh, the only way these people who offend me are ever going to learn is if they suffer. Yeah, may we punish them, may they suffer. You know, then they get what's deserving to them. You know, not realizing that what we're saying should also theoretically apply to us. You know, for all the times we've made other people suffer and all the unethical things we've done. But we tend to ignore that because we're always right and other people are always wrong. Okay? But we begin to call that into question a little bit, you know, that I'm always right and they're always wrong. Okay, and so what does it mean, may all sentient beings have happiness and its causes? What is happiness? Am I wishing them all to live on the Riviera, you know, 12 months out of the year? What am I wishing for them? Am I wishing for them all to have the latest widgets? You know, the latest iPads and iPods and these kinds of things. Is that what I'm wishing for them? Am I wishing for them to, you know, have big families that love them so that when they die they're tormented by attachment because they don't want to be separated from these people? What am I exactly wishing people when I say may they have happiness and its causes? What am I wishing myself for myself when I say I want to be happy? Yeah? And all the ways which I usually think to make myself happy, do they make me happy? If they made me happy, why am I here doing this retreat? Yeah, if your boyfriend or girlfriend made you happy, why aren't you with them? Why are you here? If they're the cause of happiness, yeah. If food is the cause of happiness, why aren't you still snacking in the dining room? You know, Zopa's here. She won't even see you. Yeah, you could be eating all morning, all afternoon. Is that the cause of happiness? Yeah? Okay. If your money's the cause of happiness, did you bring it all with you? Is it in your room? Are you counting it every night? Yeah? Okay. If all your diplomas and certificates and honors and awards are the cause of happiness, why don't you put them out on your puja table? Oh, look at me. I'm a graduate of this. Omara Patsarati. Yeah? Okay. So, really look, if we're wishing sentient beings to have happiness, what in the world does that mean? We don't even know what it means to wish ourselves to be happy. Okay, so, this is a whole meditation topic in itself. Just these four immeasurables. Yeah. You have to do the whole sadhana every session, but, you can apportion the time that you spend to each part of it and, really contemplate some of these things in depth and see what you come up with. Okay, and in the break time, you can do a little bit of reading. Don't do a lot of reading. The purpose isn't to finish all the books you've ever wanted to read within the month. It's just read a little bit and think about it and make a short outline of the important points. And then when you come to the Lamrim part of the sadhana, meditate on those points. Yeah, or if you're doing the mantra and your mind's getting distracted, while the mantra's running in the background, contemplate some of these points and imagine that the light from Manjushri is coming into you, bringing the realization of these different Lamrim meditations. Okay? So that's a little bit. Maybe you have some questions or comments? Because these first two verses here, they're actually the author's homage and the author's what they call promise to compose. Yeah, so it's not usually something that you recite unless you find it inspiring. Yeah, of course, if you find it inspiring, you can generate the refuge field, do the refuge visualization before that. Okay. And I really recommend that you read the teachings I gave on Manjushri. Venerable Chuni's been editing them. No, it's not a soul. Because a soul is permanent, that doesn't change. Okay? And your mind, even your very subtle mind, is changing moment by moment. The merely labeled person. That merely labeled person that you can't find anywhere when you search for it, but that appears when you don't search for it. Yeah, so there's going to be, there's going to be Zopa, except now she's orange and her glasses will be red and her hair will be blue. Yeah, but the same face like that. From when you were 16, because you didn't change from when you were 16, and Manjushri always appears as a 16-year-old youth. Yeah. And you're going to have the same history. So you're now going to be Manjushri, and and then sit and tell the same stories to yourself again and again about, your marriage this, and your son that, and the grandbaby, and the this and that. Yeah. Right, exactly. You hope not. You hope not, because that person, actually, Zopa stops as soon as your mind and body of this life split. Zopa does not continue, even into the next life. Because Zopa is the mere label on the combination of the body and mind of this life. When that combination splits, that label's open, no longer applies. When you're reborn in another life, then you become Harriet. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Or you become Droma, or who knows who you become. Yeah, because you get a new label. Yeah, your name is just a label, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, because it means that I, as I conceive of myself, does not exist. Yeah, that's what our mind says. No. I, as I conceive of myself, does exist. I'm right here to prove it. And I'll go on with all my stories and all my hang-ups and all my this and that. But you even think of it, where were you 70 years ago? You weren't Zopa then. Yeah. You were Harriet. Yeah. So, who were you like 70, 80, 90 years ago? Where are all the stories that you hung on to in that life? Yeah. Were you a cat in a monastery going, oh, these people, Remember when you did the skit and you were playing Karuna and you were going, Karuna, Karuna. That's all they say to me is Karuna. Yeah, so were you a cat in a monastery in a previous life? Yeah, complaining about your owners that they fed you too much or didn't feed you too much or pet you too much or didn't chase you enough or chased you too much or took away the mouse that you killed. Yeah. I mean, think of it. We could have been anything 70, 80 years ago, couldn't we have? Whoever we are now did not exist then. There's a continuity between who we were then and who we are now. Yeah. But the continuity is not one solid thing. Yeah. The continuity is just a series of moments, causal moments, in which one moment caused the next, caused the next, caused the next. But within that causal sequence, there's no person that you can find within that causal sequence. The person is only labeled in dependence upon that sequence. But within that sequence, you can't find anything. No person there. Yeah. So when you really think about it, it's like, it is scary. And that's why our mind instantly grabs. Yeah. But, I have an identity. Yeah, just the continuum of one moment of mind bringing on another moment of mind.
But it's a moment of mind, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and then, of course, when it takes a rebirth and it's affiliated with a gross body, then the gross body becomes part of the basis of designation too. And that's where the analysis is really important, and the Aryadeva teachings are really important, is look within, do a real search within that body. Whether it's the body, this flesh and blood body, or the Manjushri body, whichever one you look at, try and find a person in that body. No, don't do it knowing what the conclusion is. Just do it. If you know what the conclusion is, then you jump to the conclusion before you do the analysis. Just do the analysis. Just sit there, with your ordinary body and look for Samten. Where is she? Yeah. behind your belly button? In your head? Yeah, then you imagine what's in your head. Imagine your brain. I mean, it's very helpful sometimes to see, go to autopsies and things like that. You see the brain. Well, there's one of those inside here. Yeah, is that the person? Is that me? No, that's just a bunch of atoms and molecules, some material substance. That's all. How is that going to be me? And if it were me, then can I be out here looking at me, the brain? Then there's two me's. The me that's the brain and the me that's looking at me. Yeah. So really do it. Don't go to the conclusion. Just really look. Really look. Yeah. Okay. So how can these things possibly grow your wisdom? Yeah. You got to think about, well, what are these syllables? What do they stand for? What does the Om stand for? When you have Om Ahum, what does it stand for? Body is Buddha. Ah? Hum? Okay. So you have the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha, the energy of the body, speech, and mind, the realizations of the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha coming into you. What does that mean? What are the realizations of the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha? What am I imagining, and through imagination creating a link with until it becomes, direct perception with the body of the Buddha, with the speech of the Buddha, with the mind of the Buddha. Yeah. And so thinking about them as external things and then thinking about them as our own inner potential, that we have that potential to generate the Buddha's body, speech, and mind. Okay? So you think about the meaning of all of these things. The swords falling into you. The swords, they're very pointed, they're sharp. Okay, so no messing around here. They know what, they come to a point. It's not, well, maybe this and maybe that, and I don't know. It represents the mind that just comes to a point and knows clearly. The sword is double-edged, meaning both sides are sharp. So it cuts misconceptions of conventional truth, cuts misconceptions of ultimate truth. What kind of misconceptions of conventional truth do we have? Yeah, we don't think karma functions. What else? We think things that are impermanent are permanent. We think our bodies are beautiful. We think, no, that selflessness, that's the ultimate. Conventional is...
things that cause suffering are sources of happiness?
Yeah, that things that are in the nature of dukkha are actual happiness. Okay, those are misconceptions regarding conventional truths. So, you can think, what would it feel like if I gave up those misconceptions? And then you start meditating on, and looking at how you see different things as permanent. No, they're actually impermanent. They don't even remain the way they are in the second moment. And then you go to the other side of the sword of ultimate nature and, clear away your misconceptions about there being a truly existent self. Okay? So you look at all these different things and what do they symbolize? And what are these particular wisdoms about? What would it be like to have them? Is there anybody here who does not have the problem that he just mentioned? Yeah. Now everybody has those problems. Don't say to yourself, I can't visualize. Yeah. Yeah. Because if I say bihun, you have a visualization, don't you? Okay. Yeah. You know exactly what bihun looks like. Yeah. Yeah. If I say Lee Kuan Yew, do you have a visualization? Yeah? Okay, so that's visualization. Okay, so you don't want to grasp, I am Manjushri, but I am Manjushri. Okay, so by the way, if you've received the initiation, do the self-generation. Don't go back and forth between the two. Do the self. Okay, it has to do with how you conceive of I. And that's why, right before the self-generation, there's the meditation on emptiness. Yeah, so it's important to pause there, you know, because it's not the ordinary Ron that becomes Manjushri. Yeah, the ordinary Ron has never been truly existent to start with. How you think of yourself right now is not who you are. Okay? You exist dependently, but you think of yourself as being some kind of independent thing. Okay? So that independent thing doesn't exist even now. Yeah? So you focus on the absence of that independent one, the absence of true existence. And it's like, okay, all these things I think I am. You know, I'm Singaporean, I'm a teacher, I'm a guy, I'm this, I'm that, da, 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 50 million identities. Actually, I'm not any of them. Yeah, and really spend some time with that. All the labels that we put on ourselves, you know, be it our professional labels or our race, our nationality, our gender, our sexual orientation, our ethnicity, or, you know, it doesn't matter. Yeah, those things, who in the world? We aren't that. Yeah, and also this whole self-image, you know, I'm ugly, I'm beautiful, you know, I'm a person who wants this, I'm not a person who wants that, I'm not qualified to do this, I'm stupid about that, I'm a genius over the other thing. All of that goes away too, because we aren't any of that. Yeah. Because if you were any of those personal qualities that you tell yourself you are, then you would always be them. I'm stupid. That means every day, 24/7, I'm stupid. That's not accurate. I'm a genius. That means every day, 24/7, you're a genius. That's not right either. Okay? So all those things, you got to see, you know, work on lessening your identification with those. Yeah? Yeah. And then within, you know, when you do that, then there's more space. And within that space, you think that your wisdom appears in the form of Manjushri. Yeah. It's not that this ordinary body, you know, becomes Manjushri and your ordinary mind becomes Manjushri. These things all lack independent existence. Okay, your wisdom becomes Manjushri. Okay. You're doing Manjushri retreat. Yeah, if you want to do Vajrasattva, it's after your Manjushri sessions. You do it as an extra thing. Okay? Also, with with all these different wisdoms, you don't have to do every visualization every session. Yeah. Just, I find it usually helpful to pick one visualization and stick with it for a while until my mind feels it wants to go on to another one. But, so you can see how you feel. Maybe you do one visualization each session and you go through you cycle through the visualizations. Maybe you stick with one visualization for 2 weeks. You have to play with it and see what works for you. Okay. But there's enough variety, yeah, so that you have some spice. Yeah, if you want to do those extra practices, then you do them in the break time between your five sessions here. Yeah. So you're welcome to come in the hall and do it, or go in the chapel and do it. Yeah, you just quickly visualize Vajrasattva on your head. He appears, flash. No, just Vajrasattva, and then the nectar falling down. The reason we do Vajrasattva at the end is to purify. Maybe we said Omarapatana da, because my seed syllable is da, so Omarapatana da, or maybe you start saying Omani Pemi Hung in the middle of it. Or, these kind of things happen. Or maybe you got the sadhana completely confused and, you did the dedication first and refuge last. Just purification of any mistakes you made in the sadhana.
And when we're done with it, do we visualize Vajrasattva?
Yeah, he can dissolve into you. Yeah. And you just do 1 or 3. 3 of them, yeah. So it's not a lot. Yeah, so you can start out, on the top of merely labeled 3 that isn't labeled. You can start out with the mantra recitation. Okay, and then or you can just go to the 7 wisdoms automatically and skip that initial one. But anyway, all those, the whole thing, that whole page, the initial visualization and all the 7 wisdoms, they're all things you do while reciting the mantra. Yeah, it's nice to count. Yeah, and Om Arapasanadi. If you can do 700,000, it's good. If you count, don't do one bead for each one, because your fingers can't move that fast. So maybe do 4 recitations for each bead, and then you just count the number of malas and then multiply it by 4. If you don't want to count, that's also fine. It's up to you. No. You don't do any. Go back to anything. When it's time for the mantra recitation, you can do that initial, what's described in the initial paragraph. You can do any of the 7 wisdoms. You've already come that far in your sadhana. You don't go back to anything. You just make this whole section here of where it says mantra recitation and developing the 7 wisdoms visualization. That's all one section. Okay? Well, when you're doing this, the visualization for the 7 wisdoms, you're just continuing to say Omarapasanadi. Visualization. Yes. You don't stop. Yeah, you don't stop saying Omarapasanadi. You just continue, but you change the visualization with it. Okay? The bell rings. If when the bell rings, because you'll start out doing the sadhana 1 session a day out loud, you know, but that'll just be for a few days, and then you'll guide yourself. So they'll ring a bell like 5 minutes before the end of the session, and then at the end of the session. But if you're really, going in a nice direction and meditating well, you just can keep going. You don't have to stop. Yeah. But don't go so long that then you don't have a sufficient break before the next session, so that you come to the next session, kind of overworked and underpaid. Yeah, not appreciated. Okay? Okay. So the mind getting dull. Yeah. This is just another trick of the self-centered mind, because we could have had all the sleep in the universe and still have that. So a few things that on a practical level that are very helpful. Don't sleep too much. Sleep what you need, but not too much. Before you come to session, put cold water on your face and your head. Don't wrap yourself in too many blankets. If you're a little cold, you can stay awake easier. Do prostrations before the sessions, because it makes your body, active. In the break time, go out and look at long distances and stretch your mind. Really, in your meditation, emphasize the aspect of light. Yeah. So if you're falling asleep, just make the light really, really bright as it's coming into you, or the figure of Manjushri that you're meditating on, make it very, very bright. That will help you stay awake. Okay. This was what Lama Yeshe had the monks do, was take a little cup of water and put it on their head. Yeah. So you can do that. Yeah. And it probably will keep you awake, because it would be terribly embarrassing for that cup to fall off your head. Yeah. And onto the carpet or onto your neighbor. Yeah. Yeah. So you might try that if it would help. Yeah, that's good. Or, for a few minutes, open your eyes, look at the image, look at color. Yeah, that can be helpful. Or do the breathing meditation. Imagine exhaling the smoke and inhaling light. Or even, it's true, when your mind is dull, it's hard to visualize the light. But you can also think that the light, as much light as you can get into you, is coming in. And that the darkness is leaving the lower orifices in the form of like all this filth, and it's just disappearing. Yeah, the heavy mind. Yeah. Well, there's the protection of wisdom text. And you imagine that the Buddha's speaking it, that it's not just some kind of text and book. Yeah. But the whole book is the Buddha's speech. And you hear the Buddha giving this whole discourse. Yeah. And all of that is dissolving into you, And so you think, this whole discourse of perfection of wisdom is dissolving into me. I don't know the whole thing, but I know the Heart Sutra. Yeah. And then if you've had teachings on the Heart Sutra, then you can contemplate that at that time. Does that make some sense? No, the texts dissolve into you, but the texts aren't hard books. They're sounds. They're the sounds of the Buddha speaking the text. Yeah. Yeah, we look at this and it's just black and white, something solid. But imagine when you're reading that it's actually the sounds of the Buddha talking to you. Right. So if the counting is, we're not doing a number retreat here. So if the counting is distracting, just leave it. It's fine. Yeah. Regarding your question about concentration, you know, the way is you just keep doing it. Yeah, there's no quick way to develop concentration. It's they call it practice dharma for a reason. You have to do it over and over again. But the main thing is, you know, create the image as clearly as you can. Be satisfied with what you get. If it's just some kind of yellow blob, good enough. Yeah, that's good enough. As much detail as you can get, fine. If the detail fades, then you go over it a little bit later. Yeah, but try, you know, do the detail first. Keep your mind on that as best as you can until it absolutely fades. Then go over the detail again. Okay? So you can look at the figure of Manjushri before your session, but during your session, unless you have to do it in order to stay awake, you know, keep your eyes lowered and then the visualizations in your mind. That's actually another thing, if you're suffering from drowsiness, is make sure that your eyes are open a little bit. Not really looking at anything, you know, but if they're open a little bit, the light comes in, and that's helpful. A couple of other tips. If you're studying something before the retreat, you know, it can be very helpful to think about what you're studying or what book you're going to read. And then if you read just a little bit in the break time and then bring that into your meditation, it's very, very helpful, you know. And then especially doing this meditation, bringing clarity to your mind. Then when you go and read, you can read just a little bit and think about it as you're reading. Okay? And so that thing of going back between studying and meditating is very nice with this retreat. Okay? So some of you are doing the easy, no, you're doing safe, right? Some of you may be doing easy path teaching, so it's very nice to incorporate that as part of your retreat. Yeah, very helpful. So let's dedicate. This merit may we soon attain the awakened state of Manjushri, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born of no decline but increase forevermore.